Good morning. It is August 19th. Welcome to the Kickstart. We'll get this thing rocking and rolling in just a minute. Wait for the countdown, then away we'll go. All right. Good morning. My name is Harlan Pickett. I am president of Eagle Care Health Solutions. Do a lot of other stuff out there as well. Speak in a public forum about all the crazy things going on in our industry, and really try to help you find some great ideas on how to make things better for both your clients and for yourself. Every week, we share the leading stories that are going on, things that can make an impact, help you to be really an expert in your field to better understand what's going on, and also to help others understand what is going on so you can make an impact. All right, today's episode has been recorded. I recorded it earlier this morning as we are currently on the road going on a trip to celebrate my mom's 80th birthday. So if you have any comments on today's show, please put it out there, and we'll still be able to see those and certainly be able to respond to anything that you have. All right, so let's get this show on the road. All right, first thing I want to talk about today is the pretty large amount of money we spend on cancer screening. And it's kind of interesting. I read this story, and there was some interesting takes from this. So I wanted to share this with you guys. We spend, as Americans, about a little over $43 billion, 43 with a billion with a B, dollars per year on cancer screening. Now, that's a lot of money, right? That's a whole lot. So these are tests that check for major cancers. Okay, so we're talking about, colon cancer and breast cancer, skin cancer, those type things. This is what we're looking at. And this study was released by the Annals of Internal Medicine. And the 43.2 billion is still less than what it costs to treat these cancers in the first 12 months. So the inclination here is to say, okay, well, this is great. I mean, we're spending a lot of money on testing for cancer, and remember now, this testing is not necessarily preventing it. It's just catching it early. But they're saying because we're spending this money, then it is, we're able to keep some of those costs down. But that cost is less than still treating those cancers when they do find them. It's very divided. I was shocked in the story how many physicians that even some of the ones that do some of this screening say that they're not sold on the fact that the screenings such as this have any value. That there's it's interesting, right? I mean, they're like, okay, well, yeah, we've seen cancer rates, particularly on colon cancer, we've seen it decreasing for the last 40 years, but some of them believe it has nothing to do with the fact that, that colonoscopies and that things have advanced. Now, of that 43.2 billion, the reason I'm bringing up colonoscopies is because 55% of that cost is from colonoscopies. So I don't know. It was an interesting story. We'll make sure the link is out there if you want to go take a look at it. But while there was some doctors that were just adamant that, oh my gosh, see, this is all proven numbers. We've got to have these screenings because this is keeping these numbers down. Other doctors are saying it's having such a minimal impact that we can't even tell you what numbers would change if they weren't doing them. So I thought there was an interesting take on that. Anyway, I recommend looking up that story was in Benefits Pro. So go out there and take a look at that if you want to learn more about that. It was very interesting to me. All right, and so staying in that realm, many U.S. health workers avoid their preventative health screenings. Wow, shocking, right? It was. I read this as a follow-up, and I thought that was just great. What a great segue in. The survey, which was actually conducted by Aflac, questioned about 2,000 U.S. adults and found that 3 out of 5 Americans admitted to avoiding their health screenings over the last year. So we're seeing some people that are not coming back, right? So they kind of stopped some of these things. Many people stopped these during COVID. You couldn't have some of these screenings done. Well, some people have not picked it back up. So, and then there's the other side. Some people went ahead and did it right after COVID, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm still good. So, it didn't hurt me to stop for 2 or 3 years. So maybe I just won't do it as often. But the number one reason why people said that they didn't go get this done is logistical reasons. And that is 50% of Americans said they had difficult getting time off from work, or they just had conflicts from work. So that was the number one reason by far that of that study. 50% said, hey, just couldn't get off work, just didn't have time, didn't work with my work schedule, so I just didn't get it done. Now, the overwhelmingly 84%, in fact, 84% of millennials that were talked to, that were part of the study, they were by far the worst at this. So 84% of millennials avoided tests such as pap smears and STD screenings, cancer exams, a blood test, and it's not even close as far as they were much more than any other generation not going out and getting the testing done that they should have got done. They're millennials, just different folks, right? But it's then you go back and you look to the study, to the story before this, and talk about how some doctors are saying that these early cancer screenings aren't a big deal. So I don't know. I mean, I think that your annual exam is a little bit different, because that's not just looking for cancers, right? We're talking about all kind of different things. Your blood pressure, cholesterol, thyroid issues, which seem to be so common these days, early detection of diabetes, lots of different things going on there that you want to catch early. So those preventative visits are super important. Also, if you got your direct primary care doctor, you got your DPC doctor, they're not going to let you slide by on that either. They're going to be a little more insistent that you get some of these things done. So anyway, that's my take on that. I think you should definitely get your annuals taken care of. All right, so CMS has released the negotiated prices. This has been an ongoing story for quite a while now, that they were able to overcome the different lawsuits that various different manufacturers threw out at them once they said, hey, we're going to choose some medications that we want to negotiate. I mean, there's been a pretty good run up, and even the ones that have been announced now, it's not actually going to go into effect until 2026. So the pricing that has been released doesn't take effect till then, although they will start next year in negotiating 15 more medications. The overall result of the medication savings, if this would have been in place this year, then Medicare, CMS would have saved about $6 billion. So pretty significant savings that can be realized through this. I'm not going to go through the list of all of them. There were, it's been a kind of an interesting little talk. If you paid any attention to this, which you should pay some attention to some of these prices, because there is some chatter out there that these prices may affect what we end up seeing on the commercial side as well, and not necessarily in a positive way, because there are some commercial plans, some of the good guy PBMs out there that have actually negotiated superior rates to what these are. There has been quite a bit of talk of that. Actually, if you've been on LinkedIn there's been a number of folks that are pretty embedded into that industry, and I would say are PBM good guys, that have talked about, hey, there's 2 or 3 on here that are decent, but they're not as good as what can be had out there. So while I think that CMS overall did a good job, because at least they did something, right? This time they're not going to keep paying the prices of whatever the manufacturer says they are, which, while when you see the savings on some of these, it's astronomical what they were able to negotiate. And still, what we're hearing is those numbers in some cases just aren't near as good as what they could have been. But you got to start somewhere. I think that this is a good first step. It's going to it's not really going to affect the patient itself because, they've already made a lot of changes on Medicare, including next year where people won't have to spend any more than $2,000. That it's just going to affect the overall spend that the government has. It's going to affect our tax dollars. Let's be honest. It's going to affect our tax dollars. So that's a good thing. All right. And finally, it's every week, it seems like we talk about someone getting in or deciding to get out of the primary care world. In this case, it's Elevance, who has decided to jump into the primary care world. They are teaming up. Okay, so we have a giant health insurance company teaming up with a private equity firm. What you go? It's supposed to be a advanced primary care model, is what they're talking about. The primary care practices are the whole deal is going to be payer agnostic and will serve about 1 million members, is what they're claiming. Going to be across about 19 states and Medicare, Medicaid, commercial, and individual markets. No real timeline on exactly when all this is going to get going, but it's in the works pretty quickly as far as putting out there. A lot of the pieces are kind of in place. They're just putting everything together. So it'll be interesting once again to see what happens as a lot of, they're kind of starting their own venture instead of buying up everything like United Healthcare has done. So we'll see how this goes. If they will actually do an advanced primary care model, maybe they'll be successful. It'll also just kind of depends on marketing and a lot of other things that they have to do. We've seen these fail too. We just talked last week about Walgreens leaving the market. So we'll see over time how this works out for them. But I thought it was a rather interesting thing for me to come across, as we had just talked about another company getting out of it last time. And of course, we know Walmart got out of it earlier. Amazon is struggling with their One Medical as well, although they seem to be willing to put some more money towards that. So we'll see what's happening. Every week seems like somebody's trying to do a little bit more into primary care. It certainly is a place where things could make changes. We know that we're in a very large deficiency of primary care physicians. And then we have fewer and fewer coming out of medical school that want to do that as well. So a lot going on in primary care. If you're concerned about it, hey, go get you a DPC doctor. That's a great start to go down that pathway. All right, guys, hope everyone has an incredible rest of the week. We're going to go fishing. And that's what my mom wanted to do for her 80th birthday, is go fishing. So fishing we will go. Everyone have a super blessed week. We are out of here.